always have learned violence. Fear my sting.
Always bring bro.
There is no retreat.
No cure for fools.
Death is a harsh mistress. I bring death.
something serious.
appearance. Right where I belong.
That's where you belong, in the dirt. I do look good in green.
I bring death. I need the slaughter. I bring death.
Time to make an appearance.
I cannot turn back.
Nobody escapes.
Time to make an appearance. make an appearance.
Show some respect.
No cure for fools. This story is not yet finished.
Heroes always die.
I cannot turn back.
I do look good in green.
Hi and welcome. I would like to start my odyssey through some drop products that were sent to me with the HiFiMan HE4XX. I also wanted to stress again that Drop is sponsoring my channel for the next couple of months, and I would like to thank them a lot. This way I can continue doing some reviews for you. And I wanted to start with the, I will simply call it 4XX from now on to keep it short, because it's currently available discounted for $130, or if you order it from the EU for $160. This includes all import fees, taxes and so on. And I think for this price it's a must-have. Yeah, I was a little bit afraid of reviewing it because I reviewed the HiFiMan Sandera before, which was a huge disappointment for me. I paid 350 euros for it and the sound was completely colored harsh. So I was a little bit afraid as the 4XX is a lower grade model and way cheaper. I mean, now you can get it for 130. I don't know how long this discount will last, so get it. Don't wait. Order it because I think it's really great. For a planar magnetic headphone, it performs on a high level. First, let's have a look at the packaging. Pretty simple, not much inside. Here some specs. So frequency response from 20 Hz to 35 kHz, impedance of 35 ohms. And although the impedance is rather low, it's not that efficient. So it's hard to power it from an iPhone or whatever. It works, it sounds great. So I didn't hear any difference between the DX3 Pro and the iPhone, but you're already at the limit. So you are at the last 1/4 of volume. So you will probably lose some dynamics. Therefore, an amp or some good, powerful DAP is recommended. The headphone itself looks great, also very comfortable. I'm quite impressed. So it gives you a nice overall feel, probably thanks to the pads here, which have some velvet here. So the inner side that sticks to your head is velvet, the outer side is leather, comes with a cable that ends in a 3.5mm plug and also a 6.5mm adapter. Nothing else inside, so no pouch, no carrying bag or whatever, but I think this is enough. And let me say that I didn't have that high expectations also because the reviews are mixed. I think Metal 571 didn't like it that much. And it's indeed a bright headphone. So this was the first thing I noticed. So when I put it on, I didn't know what to expect. And yeah, the only thing, the sound was coherent, just too bright. And I would like to show you some frequency response measurements. Keep in mind, this is my perceived response, so compensated how I hear this headphone when recorded over the mini DSP. When I listened to my recordings over a Sennheiser HD600 with Sonarworks profile, assumed that this is a kind of flat response. I hope, or I think Sonarworks is doing a good job of equalizing headphones to a kind of standard. So let's assume a Sennheiser HD600 with Sonarworks profile is flat. So I will get this response here. As you can see, bass, mids, there is some drop at 2 kHz, but most planar magnetic headphones suffer from this. I got some explanation what the reason is for this. It has something to do with wavelength and size of the drivers at exactly this frequency. So it's not that strong here. I will simply average left and right so you can see this maybe a little bit better. There is some slight left-right imbalance, but this is also probably because of the mini DSP. I noticed that over time it changed slightly and my right channel is measuring differently than the left one. So when looking at it like this, you can see that response is quite okay up to 5 kHz, and then you get some raise with treble with some peak at 9-10 kHz and some other raise above 14-15, which is not a problem, as most probably won't hear it anyhow. So generally I have no issues here. You can see some slight peak here at 4.5, but it's reduced. I would like to overlay the HiFiMan Sandera just for you to see what's going on here. And the Sandera has a similar response, also a stronger dip here at 2 kHz, so it's more some kind of hole, let's say, but then it gets this nasty peak at 4.5, which is really on top, so it's a 7-8 dB boost. And this is what made the Sandera, at least for me, or maybe it was just my sample, I don't know, but if every product I get is broken, so maybe because I hear it not that well, obviously 90% of products must be broken then. So you see the Sandera has slightly more bass here at around 60-70, but the 4XX has better bass extension, so it doesn't drop off that much. but for me it's too bright. It reminded me a little bit of the Biodynamic DT880, of course more defined, nicer, but simply too treble heavy. So what can you do? There are some fixes for this. I somehow found that this acoustic foam, this is about 2 centimeters here from bottom to top. I cut 2 pieces like that, and when I insert them here, I also tried removing the pads and using some of these foam discs that come with many other headphones, but the result was not that great. I also prefer the foam inside here because when you put it on, the entire ear gets some illusion of being embedded into some pillow or whatever, because you really, like for example, when I take the Sennheiser HD50X Jubilee here, I feel rather like having something on my ears like this, but here it's really as if you were laying in some pillow, really comfortable, and this reduces treble to such an amount that it becomes bearable for me. You can see also the peak here at 5 kilohertz is slightly smoothened out, and the peak at 8-9 kilohertz is reduced. Also upper treble slightly because the treble is overall simply too much, and like this it's already really enjoyable. So I listened to it for hours. I was comparing back and forth, and I think later on we'll compare it against the Sennheiser 58X Jubilee, because they are price-wise they are comparable. Now with the discount the 4XX is even cheaper, and I would probably take it over the Sennheiser. Why? Yeah, let me talk a little bit. So with this mod, it's still not perfect, but it sounds great. Treble is still slightly emphasized, so when comparing back and forth, you get a way warmer sound of the Jubilee here, but also more muddy. I'm not talking about treble, just mids appear definitely more muddy from the Sennheiser. So here I get a kind of sound like, it opens up, while with the Sennheiser I get something like that. So talking about vocals, here I have the impression as if the singer was inside some small room, while here as if she or he was singing outside or outdoors. Really very open sounding. Soundstage is not that different, but simply because the mids are way more open, somehow airy. I prefer the 4XX. But you can see it's not okay, so you get some deep here at 2 kilohertz, and treble is still too much, especially here around 6, 7, up to 10 kilohertz. So I helped myself with a little bit of EQ. I didn't want to use any parametric equalizer, simply a 10-band equalizer that I have here on my Shanling M1, and I would like to show you the settings here. So what did I do? Boost bass slightly to get it even flatter, boosting 2 kilohertz, 4 kilohertz, reducing 8 kilohertz, and leaving 16 kilohertz untouched, or even boosting it slightly to get some additional air and sparkling. And like this, I will show you again my frequency response for this. So this is with the foam inside and with equalizer. It looks like this. So we get a frequency response which is close to flat. Don't take this deep here at 4 point whatever this is too seriously. It's probably some measurement error. But like this, I mean, it sounds marvelous. For $130, I wouldn't know another headphone, let alone a planar magnetic, that would offer me such a performance. But I'm talking now too much. I would like to show you some audio samples. I will remove the foams again, and first let's listen to it in its stock original state, without any mods, without nothing. Then I will add the foams, and at the end I will leave it with the foams and additional equalizer. Of course I could use it without foams and with equalize everything, but I think that for me it's already, with foams I can already listen with it without problems. So I don't need to use any EQ, because on an iPhone, as mentioned, there are no EQs. So when I listen from an iPhone or another source, so without any EQ, with the foams inside, it sounds already really great to me, but it could be improved with some slight EQ. and I would like to show you this. So I will play it from my Shanling M1 now, which has this nice 10-band equalizer. You can use any other, many Android phones have equalizer. Apple, I'm not sure why these idiots only have these presets which are completely useless and they don't work for the entire output. Then it would make sense, an equalizer, which works for every app. So you get it for the music app, you get it for the YouTube app, for any other. So Apple is they are too I don't know, too stupid to really include some usable equalizer. They have an equalizer on their Macs. Why not on their iOS devices and using some alternative apps that don't have access to Apple Music and so on is also so. The other way would be maybe to use some Redstone, the ES100 Bluetooth receiver, which has an equalizer built in, also other functions. And I would like to review this too. I ordered one from Drop before in summer when they still didn't sponsor me. So it was blocked again by customs for 2 months. And as soon as I will get this, I will also review it because I think this ES100 from Redstone is really, really a nice one. And for all those using crappy iPhones, I think this is a better alternative to get the perfect sound out of explanation. What the reason is for this, it has something to do with wavelength and size of the drivers at exactly this frequency. So it's not that strong here. I will simply average left and right so you can see this maybe a little bit better. There is some slight left-right imbalance, but this is also probably because of the mini USB. I noticed that over time it changed slightly and my right channel is measuring differently than the left one. So when looking at it like this, you can see that response is quite okay, up to 5 kHz, and then you get some arrays with treble, with some peak at 9, 10 kHz, and some other arrays above 14, 15, which is not a problem, as most probably won't hear it anyhow. So generally, I have no issues here. You can see some slight peak here at 4.5, but it's reduced. I would like to overlay the Hi-Fiman Sandera just for you to see what's going on here. And the Sandera has a similar response, also a stronger dip here at 2 kHz, so it's more some kind of hole, let's say, but then it gets this nasty peak at 4.5, which is really on top, so it's a 7-8 dB boost. And this is what made the Sandera, at least for me, or maybe it was just my sample, I don't know. But if every product that I get is broken, so maybe because I hear it not that well, obviously 90% of products must be broken then. So you see, the Sandera has slightly more bass here at around 60, 70, but the 4XX has better bass extension, so it doesn't drop off that much. But for me, it's too bright. It reminded me a little bit of the Biodynamic DT880, of course, more defined, nicer, but simply too treble heavy. So what can you do? There are some fixes for this. I somehow found that this acoustic foam, this is about 2 centimeters here from bottom to top. I cut 2 pieces like that, and when I insert them here, I also tried removing the pads and using some of these foam discs that come with many other headphones, but the result was not that great. I also prefer the foam inside here because when you put it on, the entire ear gets some illusion of being embedded into some pillow or whatever, because you really, like for example, when I take the Sennheiser HD50X Jubilee here, I feel rather like having something on my ears like this, but here it's really as if you were laying in some pillow, really, really comfortable. And this reduces treble to such an amount that it becomes bearable for me. You can see also the peak here at 5 kHz is slightly smoothened out, and the peak at 8-9 kHz is reduced. Also upper treble slightly because the treble is overall simply too much. And like this, it's already really, really enjoyable. So I listened to it for hours. I was comparing back and forth, and I think later on we'll compare it against the Sennheiser 58X Jubilee, because they are price-wise, they are comparable. Now with the discount, the 4XX is even cheaper, and I would probably take it over the Sennheiser. Why? Yeah, let me talk a little bit.
Appearance.
So with this mod, it's still not perfect, but it sounds great. Treble is still slightly emphasized, so when comparing back and forth, you get a way warmer sound of the Jubilee here, but also more muddy. I'm not talking about treble, just mids appear definitely more muddy from the Sennheiser. So here I get a kind of sound like, you know, it opens up. While with the Sennheiser I get something like that. So talking about vocals, here I have the impression as if the singer was inside some small room, while here as if she or he was singing outside or outdoors. Really very open sounding. Soundstage is not that different, but simply because the mids are way more open somehow, airy. I prefer the 4XX. But you can see it's not okay, so you get some deep here at 2 kHz and treble is still too much, especially here around 6, 7, up to 10 kHz. So I helped myself with a little bit of EQ. I didn't want to use any parametric equalizer, simply a 10-band equalizer that I have here on my Shanling M1, and I would like to show you the settings here. So what did I do? Boost bass slightly to get it in flatter, boosting 2 kHz, 4 kHz, reducing 8 kHz, and leaving 16 kHz untouched, or even boosting it slightly to get some additional air and sparkle. And like this, I will show you again my frequency response for this. So this is with the foam inside and with equalizer. It looks like this. So we get a frequency response which is close to flat. Don't take this deep here at 4 point whatever this is too seriously. It's probably some measurement error. But like this, I mean, it sounds marvelous. For $130, I wouldn't know another headphone, let alone a planar magnetic, that would offer me such a performance. But I'm talking now too much. I would like to show you some audio samples. I will remove the foams again. And first, let's listen to it in its stock, original state, without any mods, without nothing. Then I will add the foams, and at the end I will leave it with the foams and additional equalizer. Of course, I could use it without foams and with equalize everything, but I think that for me, it's already with foams. I can already listen with it without problems. So I don't need to use any EQ, because on iPhone, as mentioned, there are no EQs. So when I listen from an iPhone or another source, so without any EQ, with the foams inside, it sounds already really great to me, but it could be improved with some slight EQ. And I would like to show you this. So I will play it from my Shanling M1 now, which has this nice 10-band equalizer. You can use any other, many Android phones have equalizer. Apple, I'm not sure why these idiots only have these presets which are completely useless and they don't work for the entire output. Then it would make sense, an equalizer, which works for every app. So you get it for the music app, you get it for the YouTube app, for any other. So Apple is, they are too stupid to really include some usable equalizer. They have an equalizer on their Macs. Why not on their iOS devices and using some alternative apps that don't have access to Apple Music and so on is also so. The other way would be maybe to use some Redstone, the ES100 Bluetooth receiver, which has an equalizer built in, also other functions, and I would like to review this too. I ordered one from Drop before in summer when they still didn't sponsor me, so it was blocked again by customs for 2 months, and as soon as I will get this, I will also review it, because I think this ES100 from Redstone is really a nice one. And for all those using crappy iPhones, I think this is a better alternative to get the perfect sound out of a headphone. Also, you can save some presets. So I could save a preset for the 4XX, for the Jubilee. I don't think it needs that much equalizer. It sounds great, but maybe not as great as the I wanted to say Thunder, as the 4XX, HE4XX equalized. Yeah, so I will play analog from Software and Princess Frisia at the beginning, and at the end you will hear the original recording for you as reference to know how it should sound, and then I will switch over to through all the variants.
Still a sonic super lane.
think you'd hear that already with its original unmodded state, it doesn't sound off in any way, like the Sandera did. It's too bright with too much treble, but adding some foam inside here already improves on this. And then with some EQ on top, it's close to perfect. So I'm really enjoying it a lot, and I would like to let you listen again, comparing it against the Sennheiser HD50 Attack Jubilee. But I will play the 4XX with my foam mod, which is not a mod, I just put some foam inside, and with equalizer, simply to show you what kind of level you can reach. The Jubilee here doesn't need any equalizer. I wouldn't even know where to improve the frequency response, because the frequency response is really okay. It's a little bit maybe too bass heavy in the upper bass region, so you could reduce this, but I will leave it simply original. And let's compare them like this. You can of course also compare it to my database. I recorded it with its original state and with my mod plus equalizer. So compare it, because maybe probably ask, how does it compare against the Verum 1? Yeah, it's a hard call, but the Verum 1 needs lots of, yeah, I tried. I lost many hours to bring the sound close to my liking. These are the ZMF Ori pads. With these, the frequency response is quite okay, way better than with the original pads, but it's still slightly more metallic than the Sandera. The Sandera, with the mod and with some EQ, is maybe even slightly better than the Verum 1. And keep in mind the price, which is just outstanding. So if you have to add $60 for the pads, so 350 plus 60, you're over $400, so you can get both of them. So let's listen again. I will use my standard 3 tracks, always at the beginning, and at the end you will hear the original recording for your reference, so that you know how it should sound when listened over your headphone, and then you can hopefully hear the colorations better.
Just a dream I'm having inside my fantasies. Come to me. You are in my thoughts. I never stray from the heart of you. Come to me. And if we can't be on the surface, we can be under the water. Underwater love, and if it serves a deeper purpose, we can be under the water. Underwater
yeah, I think there is not much else to say. If you haven't pressed order yet, do so, because I doubt you will find a much better sounding headphone for $130 or $160 for us Europeans. So I would probably even take it over the Sennheiser here if you want to apply some equalizer. Without EQ, it's still great, but it's brighter and more analytical sounding than the Sennheiser, which is warmer overall. So both are not headphones for bass heads. I mean, if you want to boom, 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 I mean, it extends lower than the Sennheiser, but it's not boosted in any way. So the bass is slightly recessed on both, especially lower bass, while the Sennheiser has this mid upper bass boost. So here, mids, I prefer mids and bass from the 4XX here, together with some equalizer. You can bring it on a higher level than this for less money. You just need a great device. And I want to share my 10-band equalizer settings. You can see it in my video description. Doesn't need any parametric equalizer, just some slight adjustments. So it should work with any other device too. So you can compare it to my database. Of course, keep my sound samples not too critically. They are just here to give you an idea about the overall sound. I cannot capture the nuances. The sound stage is impossible. But what I'm getting from the 4XX is really a more sound that is, I don't know how to describe it. While here it's rather, I don't know, like this. So, especially mids. Yeah, I will probably get disqualified by many because I know there are many critics who don't like it at all. But I think it's great, especially with some mod and some equalizer. It's outstanding and one of my favorites currently. I hope it will last for long, otherwise I will order another one. But I already had it outdoors. Although it's an open design, somehow you get a very nice. Yeah, I don't get the impression as if I was listening to a headphone. This is what I like. So together with the clamp, which rather embeds your ears and doesn't create something, I don't know, some pressure, just rather takes your whole ears here. I don't have the impression as if I was listening over a headphone together with this nice open soundstage. I really like it a lot. So this was it for the Hi-Fi Man HE4XX. I should have known about it earlier, but because of the mixed reviews, also some response measurements, that Sonarworks has some response with some heavy peak at 10 kHz, it's not as pronounced. It's hearable, but not more extreme than all those biodynamics. The 880 is way more horrible because it doesn't have this nice coherent sound. It sounds rather grainy. So I like it a lot. You can order it now. Not sure how long this discount will last, so if you don't get it now, you will have to wait for another discount or take it for with a higher price. Yeah, this was it. Thank again to Drop for offering me, giving me the occasion to. I wouldn't have probably ordered it because of the reviews and also. From what I know, I think it's based on the HE400i. Already Tile liked it from Inner Fidelity, but he liked the Sandera more, which I cannot quite understand. Because when putting against the Sandera on top here, with this mountain landscape, especially this 2 kHz deep with this 4.5 kHz peak, was way too much change. The 4XX here is way smoother. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this was a little bit helpful, and see you in the next video with another Drop product. Have a nice time. Bye bye.
Hello guys, you are watching Clarity, and this is the review of the Hi-Fi AG4. Interesting to do a review from a European perspective. The AG4XX
Today, we are visiting True Garden. It's a vertical aeroponic food farm. I was really excited to go here because I originally stumbled across True Garden and their farm on Instagram, and it's so cool looking. It's just a series of columns that are covered in different vegetables and fruits that are completely fresh, and I was mostly interested to see what the biology of growing food was like, because vertical farms grow food in a very different and sustainable way.
My name's Troy Albright. I'm actually a licensed pharmacist. As I've done consult on my patients, I realize it starts with the food they're putting in their body.
Troy is a licensed pharmacist by trade. He went through school in the very modern medical way of doing things, and through the process of having children of his own with their own illnesses and conditions, and also being overweight himself, he changed how he approached food and what he put in his body, and it changed everything for him and his family.
My parents and grandparents were farmers in Minnesota, and we had black soil there. Here in Arizona, the soil is like this red clay stuff. So if you don't amend it and really work that soil, you don't get a lot of good quality produce out of it. So when I saw the tower garden, I can control the environment, I control the water, I control the nutrients. I love this. I can control every aspect of growing my own food.
So how does this whole process work? Basically, the first step is to put whatever seeds you want into the coconut core.
This grow medium here is cocoa core. It's actually a certified organic grow medium, and it's a byproduct of coconut husk. And you put your seeds in there, and then once they're 1 to 2 inches tall like this, I mean, we can come over here and just plant these right in here. They fit right in the pod. You throw it in. The pump turns on every 3 to 15 minutes, depending on the program. Pumps the water and the nutrient solution all the way up to the top, and then just using the law of physics.
Yeah.
What goes up comes down, right?
Yeah.
And it just rains down. There's a shower cap, rains down and hits all these spots.
So something I find interesting is that you only need that amount of soil.
Right.
Like you envision just miles and miles of dirt and soil to grow plants,
Right.
but you only need that amount?
Right. Yep, that's all
Or
we
does it
need.
vary for every different plant that you're growing?
Nope, just that small amount. It's actually not even soil, it's coconut husk. If we use soil, we'd have a lot more bugs. We'd have to use pesticides and herbicides and
Yeah.
fungicides. I choose not to use any of those here. Organic is what? As
Just
clean
food.
as, yep, just food.
Yeah.
Do you think that's really happening today?
Well, by the way you just said that now. Vegetables typically that are transported into your state by law, even if they're organic, are sprayed with pesticides. So that's not ideal.
The problem is our soils are depleted. The FDA has lots of studies showing that when those leafy greens are cut and travel, on average, 1,200 to 1,500 miles to get to your plate.
They come across pesticides.
Yeah, pesticides, or they're 50% less nutrients. They've lost up to 50%. In some cases, there's hardly any nutritional value. Here, look at some of this basil. Let's grab a beautiful basil plant. Pull this out. Look at those beautiful roots on there.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, look at that.
That's insane.
This is 21 days old.
So good.
Yeah.
The vegetables that we saw at True Garden were just growing right there. There was no soil. There was minimal water. It was really just their roots hanging in these hollow tubes, being saturated in nutrient-dense substances and growing to be the most beautiful vegetables.
I mean, if we pull one out here, it's like a beautiful bouquet. Let's get one out of here so you can see. I mean, the roots, I mean, you got these beautiful roots
Now
on
I
there.
know what my bouquet is gonna be for my wedding.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so soft.
Yeah, isn't that something? Why don't you try a piece of that?
Vegetables have a much more vibrant and bolder and fuller flavor than I think most of us have experienced. I feel like it tastes different than what I'm used to. Like, I feel like most romaine lettuce tastes so watered down.
Summer's over. This
It'll
is
be
even better.
sweeter?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I've ever tasted romaine that was this sweet. It's stronger, it's more unique from vegetable to vegetable because you're not getting that dirt flavor. A lot of that comes from growing the fruit or vegetable in this coconut husk and feeding it with these nutrient substances without any soil. It's amazing. I don't know how I haven't eaten vegetables this fresh before, and I feel like everyone needs to, like, I buy expensive freaking spinach at the store, all organic, everything. I whole paycheck at Whole Foods, it happens, but it doesn't taste like this.
And they grow most spinach in sand, so a lot of times when you crunch on spinach,
You got like a grainy taste to it.
that's the sand that they grow it in, so you always want to rinse it well and get rid of that.
One of the craziest things I tried was the stevia leaf.
Here, try just a piece of this.
Okay, see if I can guess.
Just a really small amount.
What is that?
It's a natural plant sweetener.
I just want to eat this as like an after dinner dessert. And then I will never eat ice cream again.
Isn't that, I mean, that's so sweet, isn't it?
Yeah. I have had the stevia powder, but never a stevia leaf. Oh, that is stevia.
This is the actual stevia plant here.
Wow, that's amazing. You could use it in so many things, and it is so powerful. I also tried a mint chocolate herb, and it tasted just like mint chocolate.
So once we have a sprout, we put it in the tower, 26 days later, you have that. Things grow
So
super
this
fast.
whole thing was 26 days.
Yes.
My Lanta.
So what happens is you get accelerated growth because the roots can get a lot of oxygen.
Ah, since there's no soil, there's no weeds, which is amazing because pulling weeds is literally the worst weekend activity ever. Vertical farming, it's just your head of lettuce, or your kale, or your spinach, or your berries, or your tomatoes. No bugs, no weeds. What is the actual benefit of having a vertical farm versus having a normal farm that we're used to seeing?
Big part of it is with a vertical farm, we're really saving on space. We can use 90% less land, but we can grow 90% more food. When you go vertical like this is 1/10 of an acre. We can grow 10 times more food as a result of going vertical. Plus our resources, we use 90 to 98% less water. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, what, 3% of the water in the world is fresh water? So it's not just a commodity here in the United States, but all over the world having fresh water. So we got to really conserve our resources, and if we don't, we're setting ourselves up for major catastrophe.
How many people do you think you could feed, like, just out of this space?
Out of this space, we could easily feed, 100 families on a weekly basis.
Wow. As we all know, our world is changing. The land available to us is changing. The quality soil that we have on our earth is changing. And this may be the most sustainable way to feed our communities moving forward. If someone watched this video and wanted to start gardening tomorrow or today, what would be like your top 3 tips for doing that?
Grow the things you love to eat. Keep it simple. Use clean water. Use good quality seedlings. We've got residential models as well as commercial
What is
farms.
a residential model?
So the residential model is about 5 or 6 feet tall, just like you are, and 1 to 2 towers could easily feed a family of 4, depending on what you're growing. You're going to be exposed to less chemicals. You'll love it. You'll really love it.
I was a skeptic. I absolutely thought the biology of this food must be different if we're not making it with soil and the same amount of water and the same amount of sunlight as the vegetables and fruits we're used to. But the matter of the fact is, it's better. It's got more nutrients, more minerals, it's more dense in the rich vitamins that your body needs, and it's just more environmentally friendly.
You know, as a compounding pharmacist, I do consults, and I got into this because I really saw not just my own kids, but my own patients that were missing the food part. They were missing that nutrition part, and as I corrected nutrition in them, I'm like, oh my, this changed their whole life. We were taught in pharmacy school, just give a drug, give a drug, give a drug. Drugs are just Band-Aids. They don't cure us. If you don't have good nutrition, that foundation that we're building our body on isn't there, and so that leads to all sorts of things, depression, leaky gut, gum disease, people that are constantly having headaches and they're not growing properly. Our kids don't grow properly because of nutrition. So it starts with good foundation. If you have a good foundation with nutrition, eat it, what you grow or buy it locally, you're gonna be way healthier.
So crazy how your diet can affect pretty much everything. It's hard to put into a sentence how cool and interesting I thought this whole experience was. I've always been a firm believer in what you put in your body matters and the food you put in your body matters, and we are allowing food industries to spray it with pesticides, to transport it super far, change its enzymes and nutritional benefits so that when we're receiving the food, it's not even giving us the fuel that we need to survive in a healthy way.
The body is an incredible piece of equipment, machinery. You put good stuff in, it gives good stuff out. If you put bad stuff in time, bad stuff's going to come out. But you can correct it. It just takes some effort on our part to do what's right. Who said that? Hippocrates, you are what you eat. Let food be medicine, let medicine be food. He said it a lot more eloquently, but yeah, I firmly believe that.
True Garden was quite possibly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was pristine, it was green, not fake green, not sprayed on green. It was beautiful, vibrant green. And the oxygen in that greenhouse, I would like to one day live in a greenhouse with that pure oxygen. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to learn about my health, to learn about my food, and also to share the information with you guys in hopes that it maybe changes one thing. You don't have to change everything overnight. Do one thing that will make you better tomorrow than you are today. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was one of my favorite videos to make and share with you all. If you care about health and wellness and want to learn more, you should definitely watch our tutorial on how to make natural cleaning supplies, because what you spray around in the air around you matters too.
Vertical farming has been called the future of agriculture, claimed to solve many of the problems we talked about in the last video. It's been a controversial topic with mixed opinions from experts. Are these claims hype, or can it deliver? But first, we need a better understanding of what a vertical farm is. There are many different versions, and they all have vastly different capabilities. Part of the problem is the many types of farm and confusing array of definitions. So let's deal with those first. Vertical farming and urban farming are both umbrella terms that are sometimes used interchangeably, although they are not the same. Urban agriculture includes a broad array of concepts. It essentially focuses on bringing food production into the city in order to move the production as close to consumption as possible. This may include the usage of vertical farms, or may involve more traditional growing practices in an urban environment. While vertical farms can be urban, they don't have to be. Therefore, all vertical farming references in this video won't be restricted to urban environments. While vertical farms can use soil, most utilize hydro, aero, or aquaponics. These methods use much less water than typically used in soil. Hydroponics replaces soil by using a circulating water and nutrient mix for plant growth. Aeroponics uses an open membrane and a water mist spray with a nutrient mix. Aquaponics uses hydroponics and an aquatic ecosystem to balance nutrients in both systems. I won't be discussing the aquaponics variant in this video. Strictly speaking, the term vertical farm could be used in reference to structures that grow food on multiple levels. This could range from small-scale hobby spaces to large automated buildings. So let's quickly take a look at which versions of this technology have the most promise to positively impact our global issues. For many, the image of a vertical farm is a city skyscraper filled with fruit, vegetables, trees, and perhaps even animals. While some look amazing, it can be hard to argue that these images lend credibility to the vertical farming concept. Skyscrapers represent very expensive real estate and are usually reserved for high-value activities. Growing fruit on trees or rearing animals humanely have a low value density. This isn't a problem if you have acres of cheap land to produce on, but it is if you're using premium real estate. Even if you're growing a dense premium crop, the cost of growing also increases exponentially with height. The requirement to pump water and move biomass vertically takes considerable energy. This may be insignificant for a 10-level farm, but would likely be prohibitive for a farm with hundreds or thousands of levels. While there are a number of architectural concepts for skyscraper farms, as yet, only one is being built. The World Food Building is currently under construction in Linköping, Sweden. While information for this building is limited, even if it achieves its target cost of $40 million, it's highly unlikely to recoup that money with its production capacity of 550 tons of vegetables per year. Wall farms and rooftop farms often share a similar visual appeal to skyscraper farms. Unlike skyscraper farms, these don't displace existing real estate. Instead, they aim to utilize unused spaces to grow food. As such, the cost of adding these types of farms is often minimal. Many of these farms are created by hobbyists and double as gardens. As such, the addition of green space to the urban environment is considered a welcome one. While this is good news, the amount of usable surfaces for growing food is extremely limited. In fact, Dickinson Despommier, the man who is credited with inventing the term vertical farm, came up with the concept after his students calculated that rooftop farming could supply just 2% of 2050 New York's population by fully utilizing all of its rooftops for growing. This is when he turned to the idea of skyscraper farms. Even if we utilized all usable rooftops in the world, we would only be able to save a fraction of a percent of global land. So while rooftop and wall farms aren't a bad use of otherwise wasted space, their ability to affect the global challenges are negligible. Vertical greenhouses are largely transparent structures that utilize multiple growing levels. One of the challenges that is introduced by stacking greenhouse levels on top of each other is providing enough light, as the glass or polymer structure already absorbs some of the sunlight, and stacking vertically increases the risk of shadows. Vertical greenhouses can get around this problem by rotating the levels to get a relatively even distribution of sunlight and adding supplementary artificial light. Vertical greenhouses can grow at a higher plant density than a typical greenhouse, although capital costs and electricity costs are higher. This makes them better suited to urban environments where land is at a premium. Vertical greenhouses essentially allow you to move production closer to consumption. Both horizontal or vertical hydroponic greenhouses are promising technologies that will help combat the global challenges, as they require 10 to 15 times less land and water than traditional agriculture. Given that commercial hydroponic greenhouses are a relatively mature industry, their viability and scalability is not in question. These greenhouses can grow a broad range of fruits and vegetables, but are not used to grow staple crops such as wheat, which accounts for the majority of land and water demand. They're also partially exposed to the climate and local light levels, which makes them expensive to run in some areas. If we use greenhouses to produce our global vegetables and some fruits, we would save less than 2% of our global land, barely enough to offset the projected 2050 land loss, and less than half of the 55% increase in water demand. While greenhouses may alleviate some of the global challenges, it's not enough to be able to prevent the worst of the problems. If we really want to stop and reverse the global challenges, we will need a more radical approach. Plant factories are the most technologically advanced version of the vertical farm. They are airtight, highly climate-controlled buildings with a CO2-enriched atmosphere. They're essentially clean rooms, like those used in drug or satellite production. Production rooms contain plants on multiple levels. They are sealed and thermally insulated with no windows, relying on 100% artificial lighting. They are aero or hydroponic, where transpired water vapor from the plant is captured and condensed, recycling it back into the hydroponic nutrient mix. They are typically warehouse-sized buildings, no more than a few stories in height. Plant factories offer the greatest level of land and water savings of all vertical farms. They also have the highest level of control with growing conditions, meaning that they can grow any type of plant in any region of the world. They're not exposed to bad weather or failed harvests. This gives them the potential to have the greatest impact on the global challenges. Therefore, for the purposes of this video, when I refer to vertical farms, I'm talking about plant factories, as they are the most viable version of this technology. Although, as we will discover, plant factories introduce their own challenges. While they have a greater level of real-world practicality, they still face criticisms around cost, real estate, and energy consumption. So how valid are these criticisms? In order for vertical farming to positively change the world, it needs to be technologically feasible, environmentally sustainable, or at least better than current practices, and economically viable. While this industry is still in an early phase, from a technological standpoint, vertical farming works. While it is true that the current farms focused almost exclusively on leafy greens and herbs, pretty much any crop can already be produced this way with existing technology. Vertical farms use less water than traditional agriculture, a lot less. In the best vertical farms, 1 kilogram of lettuce requires 1.2 litres of water. This is especially impressive given that lettuce is 95% water. 1.2 litres is 17 times better than a normal hydroponic greenhouse. And in stark contrast, field-grown lettuce requires a staggering 237 litres per kilogram of lettuce. That's 200 times more water. The water saved has the potential for a huge positive impact on water security and reversing wetland destruction. Vertical farms don't need pesticides. They require little fertilizer and don't have uncontrolled agricultural runoff. These factors combined is great news for freshwater wildlife. Since they can be built near population centres, proponents of this technology often argue that urban farms allow for a reduction in carbon emissions due to a reduction in food transport. While this is largely true, the extent of the benefit is often exaggerated from a climate perspective. Food transport makes up a relatively small portion of agricultural emissions. The real environmental opportunity for vertical farming is the potential to return farmland to forest and shrubland. This will be a massive benefit for wildlife conservation efforts and also has promise for significant global carbon sequestration. But how much land can it save? This technology has a vastly greater yield for a given area, with the cutting-edge farms having a growing density over 100 times greater than field grown. This has enormous potential for reversing deforestation and habitat destruction. There is an elephant in the room, however. Vertical farms trade energy for density and control. It's how they achieve massive yields for a small area of land. Artificial lighting accounts for 80% of the farm's energy costs. Based on the current global energy mix, most of that energy requires carbon emissions to produce. So on balance, are plant factories good for the environment? And can they be solar powered? This is something we will investigate in the next video. Vertical farms can be expensive to set up, especially if you want a big operation. Running costs can be high from a labour and electricity perspective. While labour costs shrink with the scale of the operation, it's difficult to shrink the electricity costs. Plants need light energy to grow. In a field, the sun provides that for free. In a vertical farm, it must be supplied. Since leafy greens and herbs have a low light requirement and reasonable profit margins, they are much more economically viable. There are hundreds of them in operation around the world. Some of them are massive in scale, capable of producing 30,000 heads of lettuce per day from a single farm. A 2014 study of 165 Japanese vertical farms found that 25% were profitable, 50% were breaking even, and 25% were making a loss. These are promising numbers for such a new industry. Rapid technological improvements and a greatly expanding knowledge base have greatly improved the profitability in just the 4 short years since the study. In fact, the question is no longer, can a vertical farm work, but how big can this industry get? And will this industry ever grow more than leafy greens? Despite being in its infancy, this technology already accounted for 1% of Japan's lettuce production in 2014 from 165 vertical farms. While the number of farms has increased significantly since then, so has the size of the farms. This year, a single farm opened, which will supply 0.6% of the whole Japanese lettuce market. In 2015, the vertical farming industry was worth $1.15 billion. In 2024, it's projected to be an industry worth over $13 billion. Just last year, the US firm Plenty raised $226 million with their plan to roll out their farms near every major US city. With investment from the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, it's a significant statement for the industry. But it's not just the big companies. For $85,000, you can buy a shipping container with a fully installed farm inside, and it's delivered directly to you. This container requires 1% of an acre, but can produce 20% of an acre's worth of produce. This low cost of entry makes vertical farming very accessible to entrepreneurs, and many are getting involved. A lack of investment certainly isn't this industry's barrier to growth. But what about market size? Many of these operations focus on the premium end of the market because they are capable of delivering the highest quality produce. But they also focus on it out of necessity, since the bigger profit margins afforded by premium products offset the labor and energy costs of the operation. While this is good news for current businesses, plant factories will have to compete on price with traditional growing methods, or its ability to impact at a global level will be severely limited. Only a small percentage of the market is willing to pay a big premium for high quality, environmentally friendly products. The more vertical farming shifts to the right on the graph, the bigger the size of the market becomes. For the leafy green market, the cost of production is shrinking fast. As of 2018, a number of vertical farm products are cost competitive with the market, although many are still sold at a premium to enhance profits. Taking a look at a suburban medium-sized farm from Japan 2015, we can see just how close to market cost they were. They were able to sustainably sell at a price just 12% above the country's wholesale price. Looking into their costs, we get a sense of the opportunity at hand. In fact, the cutting-edge plant factories are likely to have a cost breakdown that looks more like this. Year on year, yields continue to increase for given inputs, and the cost of the inputs continues to fall. The electricity, depreciation, and labor costs are falling every year as technologies continue to improve, something we will look at in more detail in the next video. This means for leafy greens at least, vertical farms are in a position to corner the market. If vertical farms take over the leafy green market, what impact will this have on our global challenges? Lettuce growing uses over 9 trillion litres of fresh water every year, but that accounts for just 0.02% of global fresh water, and lettuce accounts for just 0.1% of our agricultural land usage. While the leafy green market is more than just lettuce, the reality is it's just a small fraction of global agriculture. To make a big global impact, vertical farming needs to be able to economically grow a broader range of produce. But what will it take to be able to grow more types of food? Almost all crops can be grown hydroponically. So in principle, vertical farms could grow almost all of our global crops. So why aren't we doing that? And if we could, how big could the impact be? Let's find out.
Right now, our food chain is tied to water wastage, erosion, scandal, and the long-distance transportation of food.
A lot of people say, you know, I hate the idea of farming and buildings because it's not natural. I love them when they say that. I just love to hear that. Why? Because farming is not natural. It needs a lot of support, lots of water, lots of fertilizer, herbicides, pesticides. On the plus side, of course, it makes our food possible, so...
It is estimated that by the year 2040, the world population will reach 9 billion, the majority city dwellers. How will they have access to fresh food and in a sustainable way?
Our vision is to build farms and cities all over the world so people have access to great tasting, fresh, safe food.
One way is by bringing large-scale agriculture back into the city.
The demand for local food is 20 times higher than the supply for local food today. The more people that are in this industry, the better, for sure.
This is Backlight. Welcome to the world of vertical farming.
When I was born, which was in 1940, there were 2.6 billion people alive. And today, there are 7.4 billion people alive.
is a fool's master.